You're listening to the Guts and Glory MMA podcast.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is Liam O'Griffin here, and this is the Guts and Glory even, MMA podcast. And I'm joined as always by Mr. Paul O'D.
How are things? On today's show, we're going to be talking about Conor and Dustin. The trilogy has been announced. RDA calls out Gaethje. Tough coaches are also announced. The CFFC finger treasure hunt, and there are further fight announcements also.
So there you go, guys. Lots to be getting on with. Let's be getting on. Fucking hell. Never is gonna. It's just not gonna happen. Like, I'm gonna have to pre-record it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to pre-record it.
Where you at, big nuggets, you fucking piece of shit?
Having
there,
real difficulties with that intro.
It's just not happening, is it? I don't know. Is it just the lack of food or?
Could be that. Liam, all he can think about is food. He's on a intermittent fasting and it's not going well for him.
No, definitely not.
Decided to go on a 50k cycle right at the end of his fast.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
The first 2 hours was grand, but about 10k from home, like literally nothing left. Like I couldn't push the pedal downwards. Like I was willing my foot down, and it wasn't going anywhere. So I had to pull into a petrol station, and I ate my body weight in Haribo jellies. I had so much sugar I started twitching, and that fueled me for the last 10k home. And yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, don't do a 50k cycle in the middle of an intermittent fast anyway.
Not good for you, no.
No, definitely not. So we have the Doucette brothers are both in the house today, Matthew and Ben. Which one's our favourite today?
It's still Matthew. It's always going to be Matthew. Let's be honest about it.
Well, Ben says, "Happy Easter, lads. I'm at work catching an ass whooping." Who's whooping your ass, Ben?
So Friday is Fish Friday. We know that. What's Sunday?
Ass whooping Sunday, apparently.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the first news item there? And we'll get stuck in.
Mr. McGregor finalised the deal with Dustin Poirier for the trilogy fight. Look, we knew this was coming, but it's the fact that it's International Fight Week, and this is announced this far out. We got both guys are going to have a big camp leading into this. I kind of want to get your opinion on this as well. Like, what do you see Conor doing differently this time, and what do you think the focus is going into this one? Obviously, then the most natural thing is checking leg kicks.
Yeah.
But like Dustin's a smart guy. I don't think the game plan is the same again going into this one. I think he had that dialed in, thinking, right, this is how I'm going to catch him out this time. There's going to be a new game plan again.
Oh, totally, yeah. Every fight's going to be a different fight, yeah. The only thing I would say is that I don't change my prediction. I think that Conor wins this fight 9 times out of 10. You know, I think that Dustin caught him well with the leg kicks. I think the fact that Conor was exclusively training boxing and using Poirier as a warm up for Manny Pacquiao was a huge mistake from Conor. One that he won't make again, obviously. But I just think that Conor is just better than him all around, everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think that Poirier, I'm not saying that it was a lucky win. I'm just saying that he caught Conor on the wrong day at the wrong time, and I just don't see Conor losing. But I didn't see him losing last time either, and I was nearly swinging from the rafters when it happened. So
that's true. There's no fight companion for this one because
no, we can't.
You were the most depressed man that was ever broadcast live.
Yeah. No. I can't. I literally can't watch him lose again. And this is the thing. Conor is known for putting it all on the line every time. Yeah. If there was ever a time where he's putting it all on the line, this is it.
Yeah.
I mean, this fight, he has to win. There's nothing left if he doesn't win this. He's losing so much.
There's one fight left if he loses this. There's the Nate Diaz trilogy, but that's it. Win or lose, that's it. Do you know? Like the intrigue is already built for that. It's in stone. If you win that, there's still nowhere to go from there. If you've basically been checked out of the lightweight division. I suppose the only difference it might make is that if Diaz has won his fight, it opens things up at welterweight. But I just think some of those guys at welterweight are huge. It's a mistake for him to be going up there when
at this stage, he has work to do in lightweight. Do you know what I mean? He has obviously to avenge the Poirier loss. He has to take out one of the other top 5 guys. Probably will be a title shot if he wins against Poirier. So he'll end up fighting either Charlie Olives, probably Michael Chandler, and then you have Islam Makhachev after that, or someone of that. I think 2 or 3 fights at lightweight before he moves up to welterweight.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because we kind of have an unannounced bracket now. There's 3 fights confirmed, with a 4th one is our second kind of a news item there, and just to tie into it, that RDA is calling out Gaethje because they're the only 2 guys not matched.
Yep.
And I
like that fight.
Yeah, I really like that fight as well. And on that same side of what I would consider the bracket, you have Beneil Dariush versus Tony Ferguson. Another phenomenal fight. And whoever comes out of that would be right there or thereabouts. So my thinking is, on the other side of the bracket, you have the title fight and Conor and Dustin. So it's like a la Bellator's tournaments where the belt goes through the tournament. It'll be the winner of the title fight versus the winner of Conor Dustin versus the winner of
the other side
of the bracket. Yep. So
that would make a nice sexual graphic.
I mean, they need to do it.
Yeah.
Well, we can make up a little graphic here.
Definitely. That's
in our who's the arts department?
Who's the arts department? I don't know.
That's probably me, is it?
It's well, you're the HR department. So will HR take care of, or do you want me to do it?
Does arts fit under marketing? Because you announced yourselves as the marketing department last week, yourself and Dave.
Or we do? Yeah, I suppose so.
We'll get it done anyway. We'll get up a little graphic, and then as soon as the next fight is booked, it'll probably fuck it all up for us. But we'll go for it anyway. Let's
get some of the comments in here. Ben saying today it's ham for the holidays. Do you have ham on Easter do we have ham for Easter? Like, I'm not very religious, so...
It's only Good Friday where you're not supposed to eat meat, so I deliberately go out and get a fucking breakfast roll just to annoy the mother and take pictures of it.
Ryan Spillane says, hey guys, looking for a Netflix recommendations. You got any?
Get off poor old Derek Hickey's Netflix.
Yeah. Pay for your own Netflix. That's a recommendation. Andy Hickey, Conor used to always use the teep up the middle. Where has that gone?
There's a lot of tools that Conor used early in his career that he utilised so well to kind of create that distance and create the to bring his fighter and set traps, bring his fighter where he wanted him, like the spinning back kick, the spinning hook kick.
Yeah,
all those they were all utilised to perfection to kind of set traps and put his opponent where he wants. He hasn't done that in recent times. So look, it's something we might see coming back into this one. Obviously, the focus in this one will be MMA and not boxing.
Yeah, and I think that's where the teep was. I think he was boxing. Just to answer Andy there, I think Conor was boxing.
Yeah,
and Poirier was doing MMA, and that was the difference there. And the leg kicks obviously don't work for boxers, or they don't help boxers.
And like, if we even just go back to the Khabib fight, we saw that kick against Khabib a couple of times, and that's a risky kick against a massive wrestler. But we didn't see it against Cowboy because that fight went 40 seconds, and that's probably the only reason that we didn't get to see it. So, yeah.
So, just a couple of other comments. Where the fuck is the hat gone, Paul?
I can't wear the same hat for every episode. Do you not like this hat? I'll take that as a solid no anyway.
We have Darren Marcus. Now, I don't remember, has Darren, is this your first time commenting on the podcast? I'm my memory is brutal.
First time I've seen his name as well.
So so
welcome to the podcast.
Welcome. Yeah. You're so welcome. Big long comment here, so let's read it out. I've got to disagree. He's 32, has millions upon millions. What gets him up in the morning to train for that extra session? He's got a family, 2 lovely children, a boatload of cash. I don't think we will see the same hunger from McGregor as the one that had a chip on his shoulder. I think Dustin will finish him again. And that is a fair point. And
the one argument I would make against that, though, is you're talking about his motivations. Yes, the guy doesn't need to fight and he doesn't need to be in there. That's the guy you need to be worried about, because his motivations are purely for fighting. there are a lot of guys that their motivations are a little skewed because they're fighting for their family to put bread on the table and all of this, and that makes them emotional. Conor's going in there and just training because he wants to be the best in the world, and there's a difference between a fighter's mindset and a championship mindset, and I think that's what Conor has. Look, that's just my opinion, but I think it's...
And I would point to the fact that he was just as rich when he fought Cowboy as well.
Yeah.
And that looked like a very devastating Conor. He was an animal for that fight as well. Now I know, can you compare Dustin Poirier to Cowboy Cerrone at the end of his career? It's not the point. The point was the intensity and the ferocity and the discipline he brought to that fight.
He was set for life before he fought Eddie Alvarez. Do you know what I mean? He didn't need to fight again. At that point already, it was all about legacy. No, he didn't have the Mayweather money.
Yeah,
but he could have easily made the 20 or so million he'd made to that point last him for the rest of his life with smart investments. And we see the guy has gone on to make some seriously smart investments. Yeah, look, I don't think motivation is a question when it comes to Conor. I think the fact that he's getting back in there is all the motivation you need to see.
So Ryan Spillane saying, no, he pays for his own Netflix now. Well, haven't we grown up?
I'd question that as well.
Mara's asking, is Paul doing burpees this week?
Jesus Christ, Mara. You're killing me here. Absolutely killing me.
Quilted the Barra says, bring back Ido Portal. Abso-frickin-lutely. I want to see some touch button in the park all day long.
Yep. That movement and that kind of freeing, you know, he was loose, and that's when he looked his absolute best.
Yep. Darren Marcus just confirming it is his first time watching. Well, you're very welcome to the podcast, Darren, and thanks for commenting in. Hope you enjoyed the show. Fionn Hickey replying to Ryan Spillane. Ryan Spillane, I agree. What does he agree with?
Conor needs Fionn Hickey in his camp. # calf kick.
Fionn Calf Kicky. That's his fight name, you say. So Ryan Spillane, I second Mama Mara's comment.
Jesus Christ, lads.
Ryan Spillane, hi Derek. Hi Ryan.
I mean,
yeah, we'll just leave that there.
That's what DMs are for.
Kevin O'Sullivan, the creator of our set. Thanks, Kevin, again. Comments legacy. So in reply, that's what that's what Conor is fighting for, obviously. And this is the thing. I think his legacy is at as much risk as it's ever been in any fight. That's why I'm so I think this is the thing about Conor is he puts it on the line every time, and it's all or nothing every time, and that's why it's so exciting to watch him fight. Whether you want to see him lose or whether you want to see him win, it doesn't matter because he's high stakes. Every movement he makes is high stakes. Yeah. So legacy is a big one there. Matthew Doucette, we switched to shoeies. Yeah. Well,
I mean,
we've done none of them all at this stage.
Be sure that when we do our next fight companion, I will do a shoey. I'll try not to get it all over the desk. I'll get it all into my. Are you gonna
line the inside of the shoe with a plastic bag, or are you just gonna go full out? Shoey. You're just doing a proper like Tai Tuivasa.
Yeah. Look, I'm filth anyway. It's all right. Tracy Deneen has commented in. How are things, Tracy? Nice to see you on. She's given a little dig at Ryan there, saying he's not paying for his own Spotify. There we go. Mr. Set Temp is back in the house. It's been a while, Set. That movement stance is the biggest hogwash in MMA right now, created by MMA fanboys who never sparred a day in their life. That wide stance is just as, if not more, susceptible to low kicks, calf kicks. Yeah.
No. The reason why is because when he goes to that longer stance, he moves more. It's what makes him susceptible to the calf kicks from Dustin Poirier in this case is because he was flat-footed. Yeah. He was just standing right in the pocket, standing in what we call red zone with his feet planted, waiting to slip and move. He didn't do his karate style movement of in and out. Normally when someone throws that leg kick, he just literally just kind of sinks back and he's out of range. And you just didn't see that at all.
So as opposed to the way he was noted for getting his chin out of range by sitting on the back leg, he can similarly do that by lifting the front leg and just switching his weight back onto his back leg as well.
Just literally both feet just kind of dance back just a tad. Like you're only talking 6 inches. That's all you need to do to make it seem for the person who's throwing the calf kick, the 6 inches that you pull back, will deter them from throwing it in the first place.
Yeah.
So I think he just needs to move. He just needs to get back to moving the way he is.
Seth is having none of it. Stop
Of
it.
course.
Wouldn't be like Seth to be on without an argument.
Yeah, no, and Seth, I love arguing, so bring it on. But I disagree. I think we'll have to agree to disagree on this one. And I have done some sparring, so I'm not a fanboy.
Just a touch.
Derek Hickey, I live in the red zone. Derek, you are the red zone, my friend. You are the red zone. Anybody that's in your bubble is in danger. Fionn Hickey, do you think he can go back to being as fluid as he was, or has he progressed to the way he is and that's how he'll stay? No, I think I honestly think that he was just in boxing mode for that last fight, Fionn. Like he said it himself that he was using Poirier as a warm up for Pacquiao, and like you saw in most of the interviews that it was the boxing coaches were being pushed forwards for, like Ariel Helwani. You had Phil Sutcliffe on Ariel Helwani.
Yeah.
You know, so there was no. I'm not dissing Phil Sutcliffe.
Yeah. But there was a clear focus.
But there was, yeah. That was a boxing training camp.
Yeah.
And it showed in the way that he moved. His entire movement just changed. Everybody said it during the fight, like he didn't look like the same Conor. So
and one of his lead training partners for that camp was an amateur boxer as well, a good amateur boxer. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Matthew Doucette, Conor said his inactivity was the problem, right? Yeah, I mean,
a part of it for sure,
definitely. But the one thing about Conor is that like he spars hard. He's known for for John having to tell him to hold it back when he's sparring. So there's no doubt that he was doing plenty of sparring in that camp, but it just would have been primarily boxing sparring he would have done, and that would have changed your footwork. You change the rules on any combat sport and things. We'll see it shortly in jiu-jitsu. They've just brought in heel hooks now in IBJJF for the black belt division, which used to be there.
Yeah, and
you're going to see the entire IBJJF game change overnight. Well, not overnight, but over a couple of months, you're going to see a totally different thing. Mar says, did you see where Conor might be fined for doing 30k runs outside his 5k without permission?
I mean, it's kind of nonsense, but
well, I suggest he does the 5k laps like I do.
Look, that's one of those where it's just fucking, it's nonsense. If he's out 30k away from home with a lot of people, fine the guy. But he's out running, he's not harming anyone, he's on his own. I don't see the sense in it at all. And they're going to try and make an example of him, like the media will do, to kind of prevent people from doing this. Then again, fine like that doesn't really matter to Conor. He'll pay it, and he's donated 100 or 1,000 times that to the frontline staff over the course of the last year or so.
Seth saying everyone said that because he didn't get the KO. What if he KO'd Dustin and won? I think even during the broadcast, everybody was commenting how his footwork looked different. So I don't think everybody would have said that his footwork was the same Conor as you've always seen, regardless of whether he won or not. I think there was an obvious switch in his style from last fight to this fight.
Yeah, the narrative then would have just been, look at the amazing changes Conor has made to his game. He's able to turn into a professional boxer in an MMA bout. That's what it would have been.
Yep. Well, the attention would have switched to the Manny Pacquiao probably straight after that. Ben Doucette, what do you think of the Bellator event Friday night? Did that help Pitbull gain a step towards being more respected?
I think we'll get into that when we talk about the card.
Yeah. So our entire review is actually based on Bellator tonight. So we'll just get the other news items out of the way and let's jump into Bellator then.
Yeah, this is one that you absolutely love anyway. Tough coaches are announced.
Oh my God, what a snooze fest. I mean, could they have picked, I mean, the ratings for this show are going to go through the floor.
Like, what I don't understand is you've got a champion who just does not move the needle in any way, shape or form. Perhaps maybe in Australia. If they'd have brought in Max Holloway against unnamed featherweight fighter, it would have done more. It's bananas. And there are plenty other champions that they could have brought in place. Maybe it's a money issue. Maybe they couldn't get something across the line and they panicked. But there are so many better options they could have done. Mike Perry versus Darren Till, your pick.
That's what I'm saying. Like Mike at the top end of the scale, you have like probably 5 or 6 pairings that were like dreams.
Yeah.
You have maybe another 5 that would have been okay. Like this pairing is like beyond 30.
Yeah.
This is like the least 2 or the 2 least favorable coaches for Tough, I think, that they could have gone for.
I don't mind Ortega as a coach, but he needed a good dance partner, because just from the coaching aspect, I think he'll bring something to it. For entertainment value, not particularly, but I will be really interested to see him in a coaching role. But that's me being hardcore fan of the show regardless. But from an entertainment perspective, he doesn't bring much unless he has the right dance partner. Like if that was a Max Holloway versus Ortega, I'm on board all day long. But
the only thing that Ortega might bring to the table, he might bring in Henry Gracie, who would be actually very, very entertaining and worth watching. Like he would probably coach a couple of classes.
But expect to see the Diaz brothers. Expect to see a few faces that Ortega kind of in and out trains with. He's a Cali boy. He's respected over there, and by all accounts, his training is phenomenal, and he's a beast. So, like that from that side, I think he's not a terrible choice. But for entertainment value, like the pairing is just way off.
Yeah, it's just not right. So Ben is asking, do you think The Ultimate Fighter has run its course as a show? I actually don't. I think it needs reinventing, but I think it's a phenomenal way to build characters. And like we've seen time and time again with the fight business, it's the narrative that builds the fights to be what they are. You know, you could get the 2 best fighters in the world, and if nobody knows their backstory, you're not going to sell the pay-per-views. And like the Ultimate Fighter as a product, we've talked about this on other podcasts. Like it's obviously what's been credited for saving the UFC, but look at what they've created out of the Ultimate Fighter project in the 10 years or 12 years since then. Like a huge number of champions that came out of there, loads of stars that came out of there, and a lot of that is due to the fact that they had their profiles built over an extended period of time in a kind of like a behind the scenes type of look. That stuff never gets old.
The problem is reality TV has changed so much over the course of the last 15 years. When Tough originally came out, probably longer than that actually, when Tough won. So the argument is maybe that Tough hasn't kept up with that, and they're plodding along with the same format. Like if you look at Dana White Contender Series and that style of format with the fights, I think if they could have somehow created a dynamic where it's kind of like a league within the house and you only get through on your performance, not on a fucking round robin tournament. I think it creates, because people will start talking about the fights on that show and people will be drawn to it. Outside of that, you need 2 big coaches with two big personalities to make this show work.
100%.
And that's what sells it. If they don't have that, I worry for the numbers on it. But we know it's going to create a star.
Yeah.
At some point, it's going to create a top 10 guy out of this show. There's a record for it. We're going to get a top 10 guy out of this show, so it's worth watching for that. But that's about it. So
Ryan Spillane said Izzy versus Till would have been comical. Yep, would have been. Literally 100%. Anybody but Volkanovski and Ortega would have been comical. Seth, agree. Tough as entertainment. Colby versus Masvidal. Perfect season. Yeah, I mean,
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, those guys would just tear chunks off each other. And yeah, that's the kind of stuff that people who like reality TV like drama. You need 2 dramatic people in there if you want that. I mean, other than that, just do a tournament, as you were saying. Yeah, you know?
And air the fights and some training footage and montages or whatever.
Like an extended embedded video or something like that. That would have been that would be what you can do with those 2 guys. But like with somebody like Colby and Masvidal or Izzy and Till.
There's a great shout there from Andy Hickey as well. Aldo versus Cruz is what I wanted for Tough. Would have been another, considering there's bantamweights on the show as well. It would have been a great shout,
Yeah. So what's the other news item there? We've got
CFFC.
Oh, the finger
treasure hunt. Oh, Jesus Christ! Now, full disclosure, I haven't seen the video because I'm not a squeamish person by nature, but I don't want to see someone losing a fucking finger. Do you know what I mean? That's like there's squeamish, and then there's why do you watch this shit? Like,
yeah.
It's like Ryan Spillane sending you the videos of your man's 2 fucking knees buckling.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
No thanks. Yeah.
Absolutely no, thank you.
No, I can't watch knees blowing out, or I can't watch legs being broken. I can watch beheadings.
Yeah. See, like why?
Well, you see, because I went to Bahrain, right? And
I know.
I wanted to desensitize myself to the possible violence I could have been subjected to. So I started watching a few beheadings. Just
if there's anyone watching from Bahrain, it's a lovely place, by the
way. But yeah, so I didn't see the video either. I saw the photographs and I know what happened. But what kind of annoyed me about it is that here in Ireland we have our national broadcasters called RTE. Yeah. And what did they feature on their like flagship news channel? Only LFA finger goes missing. MMA is barbaric. Yada. In the last like 3 or 4 years, how many multiples
at all?
Yeah, how many multiple world champions have we produced out of Ireland for the IMAFs? How many, like, you've got Conor fighting, you've got like Reece McKee, you've got all of these guys fighting at the top level. Leah McCourt making her broadcasting debut on like there's so many good news stories, and the one that they picked up was an obscure show, like obscure to Irish people at least anyway. Like I wouldn't have even watched CFFC before this, but that's what they go with.
But look,
so it's very, very frustrating.
It's RT, man. What the fuck do you expect? Like they're just they're an old begrudging fucking old men getting paid way too much to sit down and talk shit. That's all it is, and they're just. I won't get into it. I'll start talking politics now and I'll be fucking off on a rant for the full hour. Just to announce some fight announcements as well. We were talking about the possibility of Holland stepping up last week on the podcast, or on Friday, or Thursday on the podcast, I should say.
Oh yeah, was that?
And about an hour after we went off, it was confirmed.
I wasn't watching the news after that, but yeah, that's brilliant. I like fair play to him. I mean, I know it's probably a little bit too soon after the last fight. But, this is a man that's putting everything on the line. Mm-hmm. He had a great 2020. He took a chance. Didn't work out. He's taking another chance. I can't blame the dude,
No, but here's my concern. If he goes out and Vettori smokes him and makes him look a bit silly again, where do you go with him then?
Well, he's just back to where he was at the start of 2020. So, I mean,
That's even a struggle at that. Because he's put himself into the spotlight and looked very foolish. If he does that 3 weeks in a row, or as in 2 times in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever it is, it's a struggle to get. You're going to be under the cosh big time. Some other fight announcements, and I kind of wanted to touch on this: the fact that it being a big Bellator weekend. Were UFC playing a little game here, in that? During the broadcast, they announced the tough coaches. They also announced Conor versus Dustin was done that day. And then in the preceding kind of hours and days, they've announced 4 big-ish fights along with other fights. There's something in my head that says this was... Because generally, when we've talked about this before, generally the UFC keeps big news for... pay-per-view weeks because they know that's when the numbers and when the eyeballs are there and it's the best time to announce their news. And it seemed like they got a lot of big news out over the course of the weekend as Bellator were returning. Do you think the fact that Bellator have moved to Showtime this weekend just gone was a free card on Showtime to kind of entice people to pursue that? And because it was such a huge card with Pitbull and the narrative being they're trying to spin Pitbull being pound for pound and all this.
Yeah.
Do you think the UFC kind of went, right, guys, we've got to fucking market the shit out of ourselves this weekend and not look like these guys are catching up? Yeah,
well, I mean, I would definitely take encouragement from it if I was a Bellator exec. I think take it as a compliment, that people are trying to counter program you and trying to outscoop your limelight,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and they have every argument to make now with the Pitbull thing as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. But Mr. Adrian Murray is in the building.
How are
What's
things,
up, Adrian?
Just quickly to run through the fights that they did announce. Some huge ones. You have Burns versus Thompson. Wonderboy Thompson versus Gilbert Burns.
What a great fight.
And that's on the same card as Conor and Dustin.
Nice.
You have Cyril Gane matched up with Volkov. Huge fight at heavyweight. You have Bilal Muhammad got his ranked opponent after taking the fight on short notice. He's fighting Demian Maia.
Nice.
Another incredible fight.
And he says he's pairing up with Team Khabib.
Yeah.
In order to prepare for Maia.
Which, like, look, Muhammad's a killer anyway. That's going to be... And look, Maia's kind of on the
decline, yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of on the tipping point of the hill, ready to be pushed down. I think Muhammad could be the guy. Could very easily be the guy. And the other big one was the Korean Zombie versus Danny Egan. Of course, Danny called him out, and I said it was a great call out.
Yeah.
The way he did it. So he got his fight, and another massive one there at featherweight. And if you look at those 4 fights, any one of them would make for better tough coaches.
Yeah, yeah, I know. But you could say that about any 2 fighters in the UFC or Bellator or frickin' Cage Legacy for that matter.
Yeah.
Johnny Jitsu and Pali Han or something like that.
Bring in the guy with 9 fingers and coach against fucking
Nick
anybody. Yeah. Oh, Jesus, he didn't go there.
So Adrian Murray, with an unpopular opinion, Bellator has better fights, maybe not better cards, but I think stronger fights in most divisions. Not necessarily. I think I think like we're going to get onto the card now from Friday night, but early on there was a few kind of dodgy fights there. Later on was fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think I think, do you know what? Look, it's the matchmaking that makes great fights, and matchmakers have off days and on days, and I think there's been a mix across the board. There's been Bellator cards that have been better than UFC cards, and obviously there's been UFC cards that have been better than Bellator cards. I think it's really...
But there has been it's set straight, not even fucking close. There has been a marked
good man Seth
uptick in Bellator's standard over the course of the last 18 months.
Yeah.
Look, I watch Bellator as much as I watch UFC.
Yeah.
There has been a huge uptick in the quality over the last 18 months.
They've made some very big signings as well, like in the last couple of years.
And they've nurtured a lot of quality talent over the course of the last 3 years as well.
Like so AJ McKee is homegrown, Tyrell Fortune's homegrown.
And there's a load of guys that are on the precipice now that we're only kind of getting introduced to. Like there's a JJ Wilson at featherweight is phenomenal. And there's a load of guys around that kind of that haven't been ranked just yet, but are very close. And with the rankings now, I think that's going to improve again. But if I go back to 3 years ago, I can remember you might have, it would be like boxing. You could have 2 good fights on the card and the rest of it could be trash. There could be some good names on it, but there was trash fights on the card.
Yeah.
Now, generally, the vast majority of the card is very strong.
Sorry, I just took a big swig of tea there just as you were finishing up. So that's why there was a gap. We had dead air there for a second. But have we finished all our news items there?
We have indeed.
We ready for breaking down the Bellator?
Yup.
So do you want to go top down or bottom up?
We start the main event.
Main event, right. Where are my notes?
Patricio Pitbull. Like, I hesitate to say that he's a much, much, much better version than what we've seen previous, because his last 2 fights were relatively quick. It's hard to gauge on that.
Yep.
But if you look at what he's done to Michael Chandler, Pedro Carvalho, and Emmanuel Sanchez over the course of a relatively short space of time for a champion and for a 2-way champion now, he looks like a killer. Pitbull was known for a tough, rugged guy who could take you out, but kind of a Jose Aldo in his prime, the way he would just dominate people. But he seems to be knocking people dead now, or snatching necks and submitting people. He looks like a scary prospect. And I've said from day one that I think AJ McKee wins this tournament outright. The minute it was announced, I said AJ McKee's the guy. He's been on fire and getting better and better every fight. I didn't think we'd see this progression from Pitbull, so I couldn't be more excited for that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love the tournament format.
Yeah.
I wasn't too into it when back in like for the heavyweight tournament. I just didn't think that really. I think the names that were in it were mostly light heavyweights that kind of were didn't want the weight cut. You know, you had Rampage and you had like even Ryan Bader is not really a heavyweight. Do you know, you had a lot of guys in there that were kind of gone
There was
past
some
it.
god awful fights in that.
Yeah,
Let's be
that's what I
honest.
mean.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I wasn't a fan of the tournament.
Yeah.
But man, this tournament has been on fire, and the best thing about it is that they don't even have to sell the next fight. The next fight is sold, and it's probably one of the biggest fights outside UFC, I would argue, in the last few years.
I'm as excited for AJ versus Pitbull as I am anything in the UFC this year. Genuinely, like, look, I'm a Bellator fan, and I'm a fan of both of these fighters.
Yep.
I'm as excited for that fight as I am for anything the UFC could put on this year. Do you know what I mean? It's huge, and that stare down.
That was brilliant.
That was intense.
That was very, very, very
It was
good.
fucking intense.
It was really,
Neither
really
guy
good, yeah.
giving an inch. Do you know, like, especially in the times we're in, should you bring him in? Should you not bring him into the cage? Fuck that, bring him in. It's that 30-second or 1 minute clip of the two guys talking to each other with no mic, no audio. That's all the fight.
Yep, 100%.
This is the one. If they're going to reintroduce pay-per-view and go for it once more, this is the one. For me,
Yep, absolutely. That's a good call. Yeah, I didn't think of that.
this is 250,000 pay-per-view buys, which is a huge success for Bellator.
Yep.
Based on numbers they've done previous, that I think that could do 250,000 pay-per-view buys.
Yep, good shout. And AJ, like what a success story AJ McKee has been. Like, he's grown up inside the organization. I think all of his pro fights have been in
Everyone,
Bellator,
yeah.
and the same with Tyrell Fortune.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got two superstars on your hands there with just those two guys alone. And you said JJ Johnson as well coming up through the
JJ Wilson.
Yeah.
And you've Aaron Pico. Look, I could name off 20 fighters off the top of my head that they've nurtured from either 2 or 3 fights. Even Neiman Gracie he was 2-0 and he moved to Bellator.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that are just kind of hitting their stride now.
Yep. They've made a big investment in the last couple of years, and now it's starting. We're seeing the kind of the leading edge of the payoff now, I think.
Yeah, and people, the coverage is the guys they're signing, ex-UFC fighters, and people are going, oh, well, he's washed up, he's this, he's that. But they're balancing that with young talent. Like the Aaron Pico signing, if you go back, 5 years ago now, 6 years ago, probably more. That was the biggest signing in MMA that year, but it kind of went under the radar.
Yeah.
You know, with his credentials, he's had some losses and he's kind of finding his feet, but he's starting to look the part as of late. But we do need to talk about this fight.
Okay.
What did you make of the finish?
I mean, you know, like that's his third such guillotine now in recent fights. Armin guillotine, he knows when he has it. It's just like when you get someone who specializes in a particular finish. For him, Armin guillotine, he knows when he has it. The same with Gallagher, James Gallagher, he knows when he has that guillotine on.
Yeah.
And you can almost see their whole body relax, and it's like, okay, I've just won. And you could see that in his face straight away. As soon as he had his arms joined and it was in around the corner, like when I see that, and if any of the guys I'm cornering, if they were to jump guard there, I would fucking batter them.
Yeah.
You know, because there's by no means is that an easy sub to finish. But when it's your technique and you have it, and it's his technique, he's just got that squeeze, he's got it down, and he's got the angles.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask you, is about jumping guard from that position. Now,
Very risky.
He had him hurt. He had him hurt on the feet. He cracked him a couple of times before he jumped on it. But look, obviously you're saying that it's his technique and whatever. Like, I wouldn't say it's an easy technique to get out of, but the defense, any basic pro knows the defense to get out of a guillotine. Is it that Pitbull's is just next level?
So I wouldn't say that it's easy to get out of. I would say that for the person that's finishing it, the arm in variation is tougher to finish.
Yeah.
Right? If you could choose arm in, arm out, most people will go arm out.
Yeah.
So that you just have the neck with your two hands and you have all of your torque going straight to the neck. Having that arm included means that you have to get the angle just right. Do you know, there's minute changes of the choking hand, either the rotation of it or even how deep it goes across the neck. There's so much that could go wrong with that.
Trying to get your bicep around the carotid, yeah.
Exactly. And the fact that the person being choked has an arm in there as well, they could kind of move their shoulder, create some space. Yeah. It's just so many things that could go wrong with that. I wouldn't say that it's easy to escape. I mean, once your arm and your head are trapped, you're going to be stuck there for at least a minute if they don't finish it.
But I maybe worded that wrong, but the defense, everybody knows the defense, kind of press your head forward and do it. You don't know what I mean? It's, I know the defense for it, but is it that someone of Pitbull's is just so next level that there's no way of getting?
No, there's definitely a way, but he definitely got his wrist in under the chin very, very quick. Do you know, that's why he jumped guard. Yeah. Like he only jumped guard. He jumped guard because he knew he had it. Do you know, and like as I said earlier, I wouldn't recommend for anybody to jump guard. Even if you do have it, I wouldn't recommend you jump guard with the arm and guillotine. But at his level, and he's obviously a specialist at this. Like, who the hell am I to tell Pitbull not to jump guard? Do you know what I mean? What the fuck is going on there?
Yeah.
So just some comments there. Pitbull has a face that just needs a good dig, says Ryan Spillane. You'll have to move down to featherweight, Ryan. Seth says, you guys are killing it with consistency, the setup, and obviously quality podcast. Good shit, but just dead wrong on some opinions. Absolutely. It's all about opinions, and this is why it's a podcast.
I mean...
So is Chandler. He was homegrown, but he stated his win in the UFC meant more to him than his Bellator wins. Sad but true. Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, like nobody, like I would be ridiculously wrong to say that, you know, that UFC is still not the Premier League. It's still it still is the gold standard. Like every MMA athlete wants to be a UFC champ at least one point in their career. But I think that Chandler did it at the right time. He achieved everything he set out to achieve in Bellator. I know he lost to Pitbull towards the end of his Bellator career, but it was the right time for him to go. And I would argue that maybe he wouldn't have made it to the title shot had he not had all of that success in Bellator first as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. And some legendary fights with Alvarez. He had the two fights he lost to Will Brooks. Look, his career was made in Bellator, and that's the reason he has a title shot now.
Yep, absolutely.
End of the day.
Ryan Ma, Pitbull is starting to look like a real force. Is that Ryan Spillane's Ma? No, it's not. It's not really.
He's a regular commenter on the MMA Opinion or now Guts and Glory MMA.
Excellent. Right.
Yeah. Look, touching on what Ryan Ma said there, Pitbull is going to be a force to stop in the final. What do you do with the lightweight belt, considering he's now in the final? He's got to vacate, right?
I thought Peter Queeley's suggestion was a stonker. He said that Pitbull should relinquish the title and let Peter Queeley and Patricky fight for it. Yeah. Do you know, if you're going to relinquish the title, make sure your brother gets a title shot.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Keep it in the family at least.
And that way we've the Irish interest
and then we have the Irish interest as well. I'm all for it. I know it's a little bit one-sided, but like, there you go.
Yeah, we're not going to argue against that. And it's something that I could see happening. Maybe not that fight, but I could see the winner of that fight fighting for the title next. Because, look, it's going to be June, July before we see the final in this. And it's already been nearly 18 months since he's fought in the lightweight division. So it's been too long that the division needs to move on.
Adrian's asking, do you think it's better for fighters to go to Bellator first and then try to get to the UFC? Or would you say it's better to get to the UFC and then as you get older to go to Bellator like Dan Henderson done? Did he do it? Did he go back? Oh, he did. Yeah, he did. You're right. I think, I look, as a pro fighter, you gotta go wherever you can make money for. You've only got a short window of opportunity, 10, 15 years if you're lucky. You go wherever you can get a contract and get money. And I don't think I think every single show is a feeder to the UFC at some point, and to kind of rule out one option or another it's just bad business. You just go wherever you can get an opportunity, go where you can get the money, and take each fight at a time, take each contract at a time. You know, you'd be lucky to get 15 years out of a career, so you just got to make smart decisions everywhere. At
the end of the day, look, if there's a pro fighter and he's two contracts on the desk for the same money and it's UFC or Bellator, he's going to pick the UFC. But for some fighters, that isn't the option, and Bellator is either there first or it's there later in their career when things haven't worked out in the UFC or something along those lines.
And who knows where we're going to be in another 3 to 5 years? I mean, back in the day, Pride was like UFC was where Bellator is when you think of Pride. So like you had fighters who wouldn't dream of fighting in the UFC because Pride was the shit.
Yeah.
Do you know? And now
And
like,
UFC were begging them to send over their fighters, and they even sent over some of their champions to take them on. Similar to what Bellator are trying to stoke fires and do now.
Yep, absolutely. So the landscape could change in 3 to 5 years. Now, it's hard to see Bellator catch up with UFC. They have such a kind of a monopoly on the whole thing. But in terms of prestige, maybe 3 to 5 years. We don't know.
It'll be very interesting when this antitrust lawsuit is done and dealt with, where the landscape lies then, because that could be a big game changer for the UFC.
And you can't rule out UFC buying Bellator at some point. Also, Viacom just took a huge dip on the stock market.
Yeah.
And, you know, at some point, Viacom might say, look, we're getting out of this MMA business. UFC is worth, now, you said upwards of
10 billion.
Between 6 and 10 billion. You know, adding some of those, adding Tyrell Fortune, Patricky, or Pitbull, you take a load of those guys and bring them into the UFC. Suddenly you revive the women's featherweight division.
You have a whole division.
There's a lot of pros for that, you know. Now, whether Scott Coker will ever sell anything to the UFC again is another kind of
and again,
option.
He made his money.
Yeah,
I mean, he didn't get taken on, and I don't think he expected to. He made his money. He built a brand that still holds to his name as a legendary brand. So Strikeforce was still his baby, even though the UFC bought it. We do need to crack on with the rest of the fights because we're nearly at the fucking hour mark here.
we're at 47 minutes.
Yeah,
we haven't gone to the co-main yet. So
yeah.
co-main,
Jason Jackson, Neiman Gracie. Holy fucking shit! I was surprised at this one because there was points in the fight where Gracie had top control. Or even had his back at points. Jackson looks phenomenal.
Yeah, Jackson did good.
I think he's an athlete, more so than anything.
Yeah. He needs to work on his eyeball defense against Cage.
He moaned a little bit too much in that, and he gave up a little bit too much.
But I mean, his eye was damn near scooped out of his skull. Did you not? Did you see how it? Like you could actually see his whole skull reverberate every link he came down, and his eyeball was being scooped. I don't know how he continued after that. I'll be honest.
He's a fighter.
So his eyeballs should just be tough enough.
Get the fuck over yourself and fight on. Don't just turtle up and go, oh my eye.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He gave up his back to a Gracie.
Yeah. No.
In that moment, and I get it.
His timing was off.
Yeah.
But I think he probably assumed
that could have been the end of the fight. I think it was very silly. He should have at least attempted to get back to his feet and get the ref's attention.
Yeah.
Before you.
No, it was a bit silly. The way he managed it was a bit silly. But I imagine he probably thought that everybody saw him getting scooped across the cage. Fair play to Gracie, who kind of stopped and said, "Do you want to continue?" and stuff like that. He actually did the ref's job for him.
But that's a Gracie.
Yeah.
That it's just pure class out of them. But
100%. But the reason why Gracie didn't win,
go on,
just not following the scoring rules.
Yeah.
He lost that fight. I don't think Jackson won that fight necessarily. I think Gracie lost it.
Yeah.
It all came down to that second round. So Gracie got the first round just because like that whole eye scoop moment gave
put
him
Jackson in real danger. Yeah,
exactly. So you'd have to say, right, first round goes to Neiman Gracie. Third round went to Jackson.
Yeah,
fair enough. Second round, Gracie had his back for like probably 2 to 3 minutes. I can't remember exactly, but he had some really dominant positions. Didn't strike in those dominant positions.
Yeah,
that was the difference.
Yeah,
maybe 5, 6, 7 strikes, good, well placed shots, and he'd have won that fight.
And what's funny about that is Neiman has been the one of the Gracies that hasn't fallen into that trap before. He's the one that can strike. He's the one that likes to throw hands with his opponents. So it's a bit of a shock that he's the guy that gets caught being a jiu-jitsu player. Yeah,
he went to jiu-jitsu rules instead of MMA rules just for the ground and pound phase.
We've seen a lot of that lately, and thankfully the judges are giving it in the right direction as of late.
And the one thing I noticed with that as well is John McCarthy was like dead set. This is naming Gracie, and I can't imagine anybody giving it the other way around. John McCarthy, like alpha male of referees in the referee world,
almost created the rule set.
And 2 of the 3 judges gave it to Jackson, and only one gave it. No, sorry.
All 3 judges gave
All
it to
3
Jason.
gave it to Jackson.
It was 2 30-27s, 1 29-28.
Yeah. Actually, what did I have? I can't remember what I had.
I had 29-28.
I think I can't remember.
I gave Neiman the first round as well, but 2 of the judges didn't, which was a surprise. Yeah, look, Jason Jackson next has got to be a title fight.
And what was it was in the group page for Guts and Glory. I think somebody said that Scott Coker was thinking of doing a welterweight tournament, and Jackson was not being considered. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why.
They just completed?
Who said that?
They just completed a welterweight Grand Prix though. Lima won it out. I can't imagine with bantamweight on fire, with and I was going to say lightweight on fire, but I mean it's not really.
It's dead in the water right now. Yeah.
There's 5 or 6 fighters there. You have middleweight is starting to pick things up, but again, no, you couldn't do one at middleweight either. But you could certainly do one at bantamweight. I can't imagine they go back to welterweight.
So Ben, I knew it was from the group, the Guts and Glory group. So Ben is just clarifying here. Well, what Coker said was that Lima Gas has. I'm going too fast for Ben here. Ben, you're going to have to type really, really fast in the next 10 seconds, right? So Lima has his next fight booked, but they didn't have, they haven't announced it yet.
Okay.
And it isn't Jackson. Okay, so I completely overshot there, and
it's not a Grand Prix. He just has his next fight.
Okay.
I would imagine that's Lima. That's Lima versus MVP. That's the only person they can be really ahead of. I mean, does Amasov is the only other person that would be ranked ahead of Jason Jackson right now. So I imagine it's MVP versus Lima, and Jackson gets the winner.
So Coker then suggested MVP versus Jackson. So I'm not sure.
Maybe it's not MVP.
There you go.
I still want to see Gracie, even though Gracie lost. I still want to see Gracie versus MVP.
I don't think he'd get inside the distance for MVP. I think that would be a bad
but it's
matchup.
such an exciting fight because one is trash on the ground and one is, well, I wouldn't say Gracie's trash on the feet, but compared to MVP, he's not at his level.
I think everybody is trash on the feet compared to MVP most of the time. But yeah, so previous fight is the bantamweight fight, right?
No, you had Terrell Fortune versus Jack May.
God damn, I must have stopped taking notes or something. I don't know. So
and this one went pretty much exactly as I said it was going to go.
Yeah,
minute and 44 seconds. It was just.
It looked like a mismatch.
Or 3 minutes 16. Apologies, sorry.
It looked like a mismatch. I mean, I know it was a rematch of something that kind of went wrong the last time around, but this looked like two different level fighters. You had, I mean, Tyrell was just in the ascendancy for the entire, like from the walkout onwards. Yeah. He just won every exchange. His ground and pound is phenomenal. He's going to be a future champ.
You would imagine so in that division, certainly. No, he still has to test himself against the best, and this is like obviously the Matt Mitrione fight was supposed to be on this card. It got pulled. Maybe that's the fight that's next. Either him or I'd like to see him fight Steve Mowry as well, who's 8-0 in the division, another prospect, one or the other, but they need to give him someone who's in that. We have rankings now. But they need to give him someone who's ranked in that top 10, and we'll find out where he's at. But yeah, for sure, he could be a champion if he continues the way he's going.
The stat man is asking, or he said, Fortune, so that's Andy Hickey, up to Darth on Twitter, of course. Fortune is one of the premier heavyweights in Bellator, and there's a standard there with rankings now. How far off is the Hulk from mixing it up with the top 10 boys? So we were kind of chatting about this. We reckon maybe 2 to 3 wins. So we're looking. Hulk is making his debut in July in London on Battle Arena. I'm hearing whispers, like Scott Coker did mention, he did hint at a return to Europe in September, October. We'd love to get 2 fights in September and December, and by the end of 2021, I would like for Ryan to be winning inside the top 15. I'm not going to say top 10, I'm going to say top 15. One more after that, early 2022, I would say top 10.
The problem there is, look, for Hulk, he's, even if he gets to 3-4-0, they're not going to push him towards that top 5 kind of area because it's granted he has 19 fights at amateur and at a very high level. Being 4-0 on a record, they'd be hesitant to match him up against, let's say, a Matt Mitrione with 39, nearly 40 pro
No,
fights.
you're right, yeah.
But, so he will have to get a few in before he gets up there, but he could do it in rapid, quick time if they give him the fight.
But I'd have no problem with him being within the top 15 and then fighting guys that are between 10 and 15 for like 2 or 3 years. No problem with that.
But he's definitely capable of doing it within 3 fights, 4 fights. But I don't think the opportunity will be there until he's maybe, like you've Steve Mowry at 8-0 is ranked and maybe 2 fights away. So maybe it's 7-0, 8-0 is the kind of number he needs to hit before he starts to get those top 5 and possible contender fights.
So Ben is giving you some love here. He said you would have beaten Jack May last night.
I mean, for sure.
They said Moldovsky was probably next for Tyrell. Yeah, that's another
that's a big one,
contender coming up through the ranks. So that's a great fight as well. And I think as good and all as Tyrell is, he's still relatively young in the game, relatively inexperienced. Like when you compare it to Matt Mitrione and the top 3 or 4 boys, you know. So take your time with him. I mean, like look at how AJ McKee is coming to we say the pinnacle, like one of the first pinnacles of his career now. As he, you know, they've taken their time building him. Take your time with Tyrell Fortune as well. That kid, like, you know, it's an asset to the company. So take the time. And another couple of fights, no rush, but he will be a champ.
And he becomes a draw over time as well. He's getting there slowly. So you look at the likes of MVP, he got up to a certain point and became a draw. Same with AJ McKee. Yeah, it's the natural slow play. And I think the same will happen with Ryan, but I think it'll be a litlittle bit quicker. It'll be 8 or 9-0 based on his amateur record.
So Ryan the Hulk Spillane is in the comment section now. He only joins in when we're talking about him. Like, yeah, I know, sure.
Loves the sound of his name. We'll have to get him on for the next Bellator review or preview.
Absolutely. So he said that Tyrell versus Matt would be the best fight as Tyrell needs to redeem that loss. Mowry wouldn't make sense from the ranking system as Steve is down the rankings compared to Tyrell, and Tyrell versus Sergey makes sense. Yep. Adrian
Tyrell lost to Timothy Johnson, not Matt Mitrione.
You are correct.
Just correct you there, Hulk.
Get on that shit, boy.
Know your business. Yeah, we do just touch on 3 more fights off that card because we had a Gracie fighting on the card, legendary name, and we also had an Usman fighting on the card.
Another legendary name.
With a legendary name that wasn't Usman.
Yeah.
Usman Nurmagomedov fought Mike Hamill, another complete mismatch. This went to a decision, and Mike Hamill made a great account of himself against who looks like a fucking killer.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, he's
and no, the one thing there was all the memes about Hamill taking Nurmagomedov down, and the memes of Khabib going, "You can't take down a Nurmagomedov." But
and he took him down twice.
Yeah, Nurmagomedov didn't really show off his offensive wrestling, but we got to see what he's capable of on the feet. And if he's even half the wrestler that Khabib is, and he's able to do that on the feet, he's going to be 100% a future champion at 155 pounds in Bellator. I think this is a guy, he's already 12-0. He's got to fight a top 5 guy next. 100%. You've got to throw him into the fire, because what happened with Khabib was they were teetering him along, and we didn't get to see him at the top very long. This guy's only 22 years old. We know what he's capable of. Get him in there now, and he could be a champion for 10 years.
Yeah, I don't want to see him thrown to the wolves quite yet. I think give him another year, give him another 2 years. I think, you know, top 15 guys, no problem. Keep him in and around there. I mean, like, they've got to look after their assets. Otherwise, UFC are going to rob them all.
But based on what the lightweight division looks like right now, after that performance, do you think he doesn't have a number next to his name?
Oh, he's definitely going to be ranked. Yeah, he's definitely going to be ranked. But I mean, let him work his way one by one up the rankings if they have to. Like, but they've absolutely got to look after these young stars and build them bigger and bigger. Otherwise, they're just not going to recoup they're just not going to grow the brand as fast as they could do. You know.
Yeah, of course. In the opening fight of the main card, Yucana Watanabe versus Alejandra Lara.
Loved this fight.
Phenomenal
Loved
fight.
Loved it.
It was fight of the night. Brian Moore called it. He said it'd be fight of the night. I thought it'd be the main event, but that went a different direction. But yeah, Kana, look, she looked very, very awkward on the feet. Didn't like being hit. She her chin went up in the air and she backed out of situations with her chin up in the air. That would be a concern, especially for an undefeated fighter. But the way she turned it around after round one and implemented her game plan, she wasn't the most dominating person when she got on top, but she was able to control the fight.
Yeah, what I was very impressed was that she knew the scoring system, because she did have dominant. She did very similar to Neymar Gracie. She had dominant positions. She had a top position, but she struck.
She did enough to score, yeah.
She scored and she won the last 2 rounds decisively. Do you know? I'm a little bit concerned about how she was wading into distance. You know, she was kind of pawing with her I think it's her right hand. I think she's a right hand thrower. She was pawing with her right hand to try and get a clinch at the same time as using her right foot to try and get a sweep at the same time. Now, it paid off.
Yeah, but she was opening herself up to be caught.
Very open, yeah. And I thought Lara was going to catch her, because like in the first round, Lara landed some dingers. Yeah. Dingers.
But they were all straight shots. The hooks weren't landing, and that's where Watanabe was kind of open. If Lara had switched it up a bit and thrown a couple of switch hooks from her left-hand side, it could have been a very different fight, yeah.
So Ryan Spillane said he went straight to Tapology there to ruin you, Paul. But I'll admit when I'm wrong, I fully thought he fought Matt. There you go.
They were scheduled to fight actually on this card, but it didn't come to fruition. Matt had to pull out, and that's where Jack May his name came back into the discussion again.
Dean McCarthy, on behalf of everybody in the Carform warehouse, is asking me where do I get my illegal haircuts, or where do we get our illegal haircuts?
I cut my own hair.
Ditto. I did too. So I'll cut your hair for you, Dean, if you want. No problem, bye.
We have more skills than just the ability to talk shit for an hour. The only other fight I do want to get to, because I know we're basically out of time, is another Russian, Magomedov.
Oh, what a fight. What a fighter.
This guy looks like a fucking problem. That 135 division is so stacked. Similar to the UFC, there's 10, 12 guys there right now that you could see being champions, like legitimate champions. Magomedov just made a statement in that division. And
fair fucks to CJ.
What a warrior.
Hamilton. I mean, like that first round, he did everything correct. Everything. He stuffed takedowns. He got out of bad positions. He was a scrambler. He was landing shots. Like, he put Magomedov in a position where Magomedov had to up a gear.
Yeah.
But he had that gear to go up. That was the thing.
What scares me is I think he has another couple of gears as well. That guy's a freak. Them suplexes that he's landed now in both Bellator fights, they're vicious. Now, again, credit to CJ, he was able to turn midair.
Yeah, he was like a cat.
And he really was. I was thinking it as he turned. He was like, I'm not getting fucking slammed on my neck. CJ put up a phenomenal fight against a guy that, like, he's going to murder a lot of the guys at 135 pounds, and it could be a future champion. Let's not forget as well, this is the only guy to beat Peter Yan, not by disqualification.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, look, very, very impressed with Magomedov, and shocked that he's not on the main card of that. I think he'll be a main card guy from now on.
The one thing I watched during the fight as well, actually, Dean McCarthy just saying that he agrees that CJ put up some fight and did not want to go down. However, coming on to the second round, his body language was totally different. Like, he threw everything, including the kitchen sink, at Magomedov in the first round. He was having some success. It seems as though he went back to his stool, realised, shit, I have to do this 2 more times. And then came back out and just had an absolute kind of a shit attack then.
I'd be deflated if I looked across and saw that guy not even breathing hard as well. Just looked like, and he has that look, right? I don't know where I commented on this. He had this look in his eye. Like, he's definitely killed a few people before. Like 100%.
There's definitely a manslaughter or two in him.
He's done murders, like. and no remorse either. He just has that kind of sullen, deadpan look in his eyes. He just stares at you, and it's like,
he's a serial killer in
killed.
his spare time. Yeah.
So scary fucking dude.
Do you know who a couple of fighters that I thought were excellent in this as well were Chris Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Against Roger Huerta.
Yeah.
Roger Huerta, very sad to see him not do so good. However, I thought he did nothing wrong for the fight.
Mm-hmm.
I thought there was glimpses of the old Roger Huerta in there. But Gonzalez was just so good. I mean, his wrestling was on point, his timing, his level changes, and his top control, all perfect. It was a great fight to go back and study and watch, and that kid's going to be dangerous.
And again, that's another example of a guy that they're building up, and to give him Roger Huerta at this point, that's phenomenally smart matchmaking. To give him a name on a big card.
Yep.
Where he can go out and showcase his skills, and everyone's watching. It's Roger Huerta at the end of the day.
Yep.
So look, it's a very smart play.
And the thing about Roger Huerta as well, he's on a bit of a skid. I don't think he's won since 2017 is what I heard on the broadcast.
But that's only 4 fights, I think. No,
yeah,
including this one.
And was it you or someone else in the group was saying that he was his body language was way off in the pre-fight presser, that he didn't look like he wanted to be there.
I didn't say that anyway.
But so my thing was watching that fight, and if that was the case with many kind of fighters coming to the tail end of their career, I'd be the first to say, look, it's time to hang them up.
Yeah.
But the way Huerta fought, I think there's still fight in that dog.
Yeah.
I think he just came up against an absolute killer in Chris Gonzalez, but I think he takes a win off another few guys in that division, just a little bit lower ranked.
Yeah, this is going to be controversial.
Go to ONE FC.
This is going to be controversial, but I think Roger Huerta is just built for BKFC. I think that's his world. I think he's a tough guy, tough chin, loves to bang.
Yeah.
I think that should be his world right now. And look, when you see guys going over there that are a little bit older, you worry about them, but I don't know. For me, they don't get hit as hard. They just cut easier. Like nobody, you might get hit hard with the first one, but
and he's definitely lost his modelling career already.
100%, yeah. Them tats are doing nothing for him. Listen, the shaved head and the beard thing, he's got that down though.
Oh yeah,
that's a good look.
You like that look?
So I'm hearing in the grapevine that's a good look.
I think it might be checking your sources there.
But yeah, BKFC will be a good home for him, I think, after the Bellator reign. It comes to an end, whenever that might be.
Not human Newman. My God,
scary motherfucker as well.
That's a tough fight for anybody. I don't care what organization they're in. That
Very
dude
green, but looked phenomenal for that's his third professional fight. Going in against the guy as well who's 1 and 2. It's hard to say that you're right there. Do you know what I mean? But he showed a lot of skills and a lot of. He looked very competent in there for a guy that's just 2-0.
Yeah. And it was his kind of decision making, and again, the striking from dominant positions. Obviously he's a very, very accomplished wrestler. His technique in his wrestling was awesome. His transitions to the crucifix. We saw the crucifix. That was the best thing all night. Crucifix kept coming up. And
Liam won Twitter on Friday night.
Well, I was only quoting the commentary team. It was Josh Thompson said, "Is this event sponsored by what did I say?
Is this event sponsored by the crucifix?"
Oh yeah.
And you added,
"Well, it is Good Friday." No, I didn't say that. John McCarthy said that.
Oh, did he? I missed that he said that. I thought
That's
you added that bit in yourself. I was
all I added in was the amen, brother.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was good. But the referee definitely wasn't a fan of Busick anyway. He that stoppage was about a half an hour too late.
Yeah, he took possibly 20-30 punches that he shouldn't have.
And elbows.
And his face was a mess leaving that cage. Like the minute that went into the crucifix and 6 punches landed because he was landing heavy, stop it.
Yep.
But he landed 30 or 40.
Yeah, no, it was way too late. And Dan Margliotta had a late stoppage later on as well. I can't remember which fight that was, but there was a few late stoppages there, and a couple of early mismatches I felt as well.
It was actually the Chris Gonzalez fight, and Roger Huerta ended up tapping to. Oh no.
No, that was that. I felt
But
Roger Huerta did the right thing by tapping there.
Yeah.
I think that at that stage he was already 2 rounds down.
Mm.
He did what he needed to do at the start of the third to give himself a fighting chance. He went for the knockout, which is exactly what he should have done. Then he gets taken down, not only taken down, but reversed, gets flattened out with his back and the handcuff. So the guy had the cross wrist control plus belly down back mount.
He was just going to
take a huge amount of damage in the next 15 seconds. And like the veteran he is, just taps out. He says, okay, I'm not going to win from here. So I'm just going to keep my whatever brain cells I've got left.
Yeah. It was the apologies. It was the Terrell Fortune Jack May fight that went too long.
Yes. Ben Doucette, who was the 6'7" welterweight that looked like a baby horse fresh out of the womb?
Trevor Goody.
Yeah, that was a mismatch.
Trevor Goody.
Yeah, that was the fight I was talking about. There was a couple of those fights just at the start of the card that just didn't look like they were really well matched.
Can we comment on Trevor Goody? Like, all right, he he definitely went down legitimately the first time. He got cracked, went down.
Yeah.
Second time was more, he got hurt and went, nah. If I chuck myself down here for a second time, the ref will definitely stop this.
Yeah.
And then your man goes, no, get back up. The third time, he made eye contact with the ref and went, kind of like, yeah. And then chucked himself on the ground. He didn't even get fucking hit. He barely got clipped the third time and just fucking took a swan dive.
But this is the problem with height. I know height is an advantage when you've got the reach advantage, but also his head is so far away from the center of gravity that once you hit it, the law of the lever takes it all the way to the ground, like he's one of those bobble machines that you punch and they pop back up again. We saw the same thing with Stefan Struve. And if you don't have extraordinary core strength, well, then it's very, very hard not for punches that go to your head that far away from the fulcrum. It's very hard for you not to get knocked out.
Yeah. Oh no, and look, he was definitely rocked throughout that whole sequence towards the end. Yeah, but he 100% chucked himself on the ground the third time.
And what was the guy I said looked like a porn star? Mandel.
Oh, Manel, yeah.
Who did he fight again, man?
He looked phenomenal as well, by the way. I know you said that your man just Mandel Nalo.
Yeah.
You just said Sehash didn't look good, but Sehash has looked good in his previous appearances.
Yeah.
I just think Nalo, he just had that kind of weird, unorthodox style of striking.
Yeah.
He had even a weird stance. He was kind of like hunched in a weird kind of almost karate mixed up Muay Thai stance. And but
there was definitely a Muay Thai influence in there because in the corner, even when he landed, you actually hear all the Muay Thai noises. Ooh wee.
Yeah, but
yes.
He did look like a porn star, but he did look phenomenal.
Well, I think he came out. I think he was after shagging someone on OnlyFans backstage just before he came out, because you just see the get up of him as he came on. He was wearing like a kind of like a lounge suit, track suit, and it was like a t-shirt with loads of flowers on it, and he was definitely a little bit sleepy. Like he definitely just had a ride backstage and came out to ride someone else.
I mean, if it worked for him, go for it.
I mean, that's a dream job right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
The power of the mullet. Ben Doucette.
Yeah, the mullet didn't going down well in 2021.
Yeah, the mullet didn't work at all.
Mullets have been getting knocked off people's heads all year long.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's it. Any other fights from that card, or
that is about our show? No, look, I think we touched on everything. We actually touched on a few that I didn't even think we'd get to at the time we had, but. Yeah, look, again, we've another Bellator card next week. We've 256 next week, another great card. And you also have the UFC's return to ABC with Holland versus Vittori.
Yep.
2 very good cards, and I'm interested to see how they compete this week with media and stuff like that. I think we're in for a very good week of fights.
So for anybody that's watching in, if you've enjoyed the show, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can see here 456. Our goal was 500. By when?
Well, it was actually for the end of the month, last month, but
look, okay, we'll get there. We'll get there.
And our original target was
250. So we've blown past the original one. We're kind of ticking away nicely now towards that second goal. But as you can see, look, guys, the amount of content that's on this channel, 5+ original content videos going out every week. So go ahead across to Guts and Glory MMA and hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, all that jazz,
And just a shout out there, the top 10 videos, huge shout out to Ben Doucette, who's working hard on those, and they're big hits on the page. You have Behind the Tape, that's brought to you by Andy Hickey with his stats from Twitter, another phenomenal hit, and then you have Matchmaker will be out on Monday as well, along with all the other content.
And one other thing as well is the page is still called the MMA Opinion for right now. We're still working on that, but it's going great. Make sure you keep on commenting in there, guys. We love the engagement that's on the page. I think that's it.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yep.
Back next week.
That's it. Back next week.
Thursday. Because
What is the schedule for this week?
So Monday, Matchmaker. Wednesday, top 10. Thursday, Behind the Tape. Friday, you'll have Pro-Ams released. Friday we'll have Pro-Ams released. Thursday also we have the live show. And Sunday we have a live show.
And we're going to do a companion for UFC 258 when all the Irish lads are on it.
Yep. That'll be a huge card.
I'll get some whiskey for that night.
That is a huge card. I still have the bottle of Proper 12. We didn't go near it the last night.
Oh, we can't go near it now because Connor's not involved anymore. So
yeah, that's true. But yeah, we'll have a good night that night.
So there you go, guys. This has been our show. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for commenting all the ways through. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers.
I want to fight with Chuck. Chuck.
I think he just blew his wad there.
Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck. Where you at, McNuggets, you fucking piece of shit?
I'm cool with all the gods. Gods recognize gods.
This is #1 bullshit.
You can't stop this Imperial Express. Choo-choo, motherfuckers.
I don't have much left to say other than you have seen nothing yet.
Who the fuck is that guy?
I'm the man of the hour, Joe. Too sweet to be sour. What you see is